Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. We almost got serenaded with a harmonica there, folks. Today I'm chatting with my friend, the Sinister Porpoise, and we're going to be discussing her... Oops. Me and my fat fingers. Sorry about that.
Hey, it's hard to tape in flapper gloves, I can tell you that much.
But anyways, what I do here is I speak to folks about their deconversion stories or whatever belief system they were once a part of and how they found their way out of it. So I just ask basically to take us on that journey. And like I said earlier, I'll just jump in with something stupid to say every once in a while.
There's a lot of stupid things you can say about the Mormons.
Yeah. One of the things I always wondered was that magic underwear. That's always been one of my favorite things.
It's tied to polygamy.
Was it? Oh,
yes.
Really?
Mormon history is bizarre.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, take us back to when you were involved and, you know, how you went through that indoctrination and how you found your way out of it.
Well, for some bizarre reason that I'll never understand, although he says Mormonism was the only religion you could find with a Heavenly Mother, and he believed in a Heavenly Mother, and it's like, I have to wonder, it's like, if the internet were available, it's like you could have found plenty of religions that believe in some sort of female divine figure.
Oh, yeah, lots.
But he did it in the 70s, so Mormonism was the first one he encountered, so he decided to convert to Mormonism before I was born, because that's how you end up with something like a Pennsylvania Dutch ex-Mormon. That's about the only way you can do it. And he married my mother, they got sealed in the temple, so I was basically born into the church, or born into the covenant, as they refer to it as, and got raised as a young Mormon. So basically, you know, you're young and you hear all the stories, and as a young person, you pretty much believe the stuff you're told, especially early. And you trust the people that are giving you this information generally. Yeah,
of course.
You know, even if it doesn't make sense, like the story about the Bronze Age submarines in the Book of Mormon.
The what?
It's in the Book of Ether. Maybe you should look it up. And
oh boy, I've never actually read the book, so
it's not worth reading. But I bought everything. It's like every Sunday they drug us to church, and I hated going to church, which most kids do. The Mormons had what's known as the 3-hour block. If anyone listens to, is he still here, Mr. Atheist?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah,
Jimmy Snow.
Well, he still calls himself that, but he usually just goes by Jimmy Snow now.
He talks about it off and on, and it's like having young children sit through 3 hours of meetings. Yeah, submarines with doors, in fact, that open when the submarine is underwater.
That's a good idea. They got screen doors at least?
Well, the thing is, supposedly, sometimes one would be on top and the other would be on the bottom. So you had to look out, but you had to look out which of the doors to figure out which one was on top and which one was on the bottom. And it's one of those things you can look at, you know, you may have bought it as a great adventure story because it's just like, oh yes, they built these boats to cross the Atlantic after the Tower of Babel, and then it's... And Kathy Garrett is someone I know, in fact.
Okay.
I'm surprised to see
Kathy.
You here. What was I talking about? Oh yes, the Bronze Age submarines. But getting back on track, eventually, you know, as you got older, it's like you do they have something called Pioneer Trek, and they want you to do your genealogy. And I guess that's the first break, because the Mormons have like this really, really, I would say it's an almost form of ancestor worship when it comes to the pioneers. Because a lot of them are descendants of the people who went out to Utah, and it's like, oh yeah, you need to figure out what the pioneers did and what they sacrificed to get you here. It's like, then I discovered, going through at least the genealogy on my dad's side, because my mother's side stops like right after my grandfather, because apparently a lot of them went a little crazy during the Great Depression, and some of them are not engaged in legal activities. As far as I can tell, I don't really know because it's very hard to get information out of that side of the family about that.
Well, the Depression definitely made a lot of people do things that they wouldn't have normally done, we'll say.
Yeah, well, I do know my great-grandfather on that side died in prison. The other actually ties back to some British, or not. It's the same side of my family. It would be on the grandmother side of my mother's side. Goes back, in fact, to some English king, and that goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, because if you tie into royalty, they have it go all the way back to Adam and Eve. So once you get into that, it's pretty much all made up.
Yeah, well, Adam and Eve are made up, so that just goes without saying.
And I was thinking, it's like, how am I supposed to go on this pioneer trek to get in touch with my ancestors? It's like my ancestors were Mennonite farmers. They didn't go out west. They raised chickens. It's like, it would make more sense to go on to a farm and figure that one out. But that was like a minor thing. And the Mormons also have this really, really great idea of the afterlife. It's a lot like a multi-level marketing scam.
Oh, really?
Which I think is one of the reasons why so many Mormons get involved in multi-level marketing. But basically, Mormons teach that any guy, essentially, and it has to be male, because apparently God is male, and the Heavenly Mothers, there's more than one, because God is a polygamist, are all female, and we come to Earth because we're given physical bodies, because we're first given spiritual bodies, because the process of making these spiritual children is essentially the same as making physical children.
Oh, really?
I think they're kind of dropping that, but it's kind of the logical conclusion of what they teach. And it's why they're so big on enforcing gender roles.
Right.
Because apparently your gender is going to be whatever it always was for all eternity. It's important to make sure that you can produce those spirit children yourself if you make it to exaltation.
Right.
And I was sitting there one night, I was thinking, just like, I don't really believe this, because it seems to me the more specific your afterlife scheme is, the less likely it is to be true. And, Christianity is still more general. It's like, oh yeah, you go up to heaven if you're good, hell if you're bad. It's not like, oh yeah, there's like these 3 levels of glory, and if you're really bad and just see God and deny him, you go to outer darkness. Although apparently, if the Mormons are right, I get to hang out in hell with Aaron Ra for eternity.
Not so bad.
Like,
I'll hang out with the guy. He's pretty cool.
Is that supposed to be a detriment?
Yeah. No, he's good people. Aaron's a good friend. So
yeah, I don't know him, but it's like, is this supposed to be a detriment to me in any way?
Yeah. Am I supposed to be discouraged now, or?
But I remember being told for years, it's like, and the Mormons, like most fundamentalist religions, love to have, or love a black and white thinking setup. And they were like, well, either Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, or he's the biggest fraud who ever lived. So that's kind of, I guess you would call it a thought-stopping cliche that has a lot to do with Mormonism's cult past, where you're supposed to say, oh yes, he's clearly a prophet of God, and I shouldn't look into these things. But I thought, maybe I should start looking into this and see if this test actually holds up. So I start studying Mormon history. The weird thing is I come across a lot of these like weird quotes that I'm thinking, just because you're told anything that makes the church look bad is anti-Mormon, and you shouldn't read it. Then I did a little more digging, and this was much easier now that the internet was widely accessible, because after the World Wide Web came out. Of course, there's also the problem getting correct information on the internet, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A lot of these things were said by Brigham Young.
Well, the internet, I mean, if you don't know how to Google properly, you always got to remember the first few options that come up are usually an ad for something related to the question you asked. And you go past that, and then you look at the place where it comes from, the source for where it comes from, and you generally find something. If you're looking up something scientific, you can find something usually within the peer review section that'll pop up. It'll give you papers or options, and you can go check stuff out there rather than just some fly-by-night website.
In heaven, every Tuesday is Taco Tuesday. I have it on good authority.
Really?
It's in your chat.
Oh.
Listen, the problem with Taco Tuesday is it perpetuates the notion that tacos are a sometimes food.
Yes. You can have tacos on Thursday if you want.
So I kept digging more and more into Mormon history, and I found out, one, it's fascinatingly bizarre. And secondly, I come into the story of how Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon.
Oh.
Which isn't quite what's described in South Park, but it's close. Because the Mormons will tell you it's like, oh, he found these golden plates on a hill, and he found this breastplate and like magic spectacles, kind of like, I don't know if you've played D&D, they're like the classes of true seeing that translate for you.
Yes.
That allowed him to translate the plates. And then you dig into the historical sources and found out it's like, one, no one ever actually saw these things.
Yep.
Two, he has a history of gold digging.
Yep.
Three, eventually they find out it's like, not only did he have a history of gold digging, he was convicted for it, and they found records. The church tried to deny that for years until they found records from a court case in Pennsylvania where he was convicted of being a disreputable person, I believe. No, there is no girdle of femininity in Mormonism.
Girdle of femininity? Is that even a thing?
It is in D&D.
Oh.
Or
okay,
was.
Yeah.
And if you play the Starfinder game, there's a more modern version that only works on a willing person where it's just the potion of gender change.
Oh, okay. It's been so long since I played D&D, so I'm completely out of the loop.
And you find out, it's like you keep digging into the history, it's like, at that point it has to snap. It's like, there is no way any of this is true. And then you just start, it's like, wait a minute, even though you find this out, Mormon history is still fascinatingly bizarre. Especially the early stuff. And then you dig out into things and find out things like the Mountain Meadows Massacre.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You find out that Joseph Smith's wife did not like Brigham Young, which is why she did not go out to Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. She stayed in Nauvoo. You find out things like he threw a Masonic symbol when he was murdered at the jail of Carthage. I mean, not to say that everything that happened to the Mormons was good. It wasn't. But perhaps one of the most horrible things he did was in Nauvoo, there were a group of people who found out about polygamy and decided to expose Joseph Smith. They bought a printing press, gathered all their stories, and put out a newspaper that only ever had one edition. And I don't think you can find any copies of it because none of it survived. None of them survived. And they put out the one and only edition of the Nauvoo Expositor newspaper. Joseph Smith, who had a militia at the time, which was something the governor of Missouri did not like, this was why they left Missouri, and the governor of Illinois allowed it, but he wasn't really comfortable with it, because this was back in the early 1900s, and a militia actually could be a legitimate threat to any government at the time. Mm-hmm. You could overthrow it, because it's not like they had the huge funding the U.S. military has today.
Right.
Where if militias actually went up against the U.S. military, they'd probably have their posteriors handed to them because they don't have the same level of equipment.
No.
which is why I think it's so funny to see all these militias say it's like, I have a right to own a bazooka. It's like, yeah, but you don't have the money to own a tank.
Hell, they don't even need tanks. They could just drone strike these idiot sticks.
And he calls out, I think it was called the Nauvoo Legion, and has them go destroy the printing press. And all copies of the Nauvoo Expositor, because people had left the church and found out it's like, hey, he's engaging in polygamy, and a lot of the inner circle is. And polygamy is, well, actually, I don't think it's actually illegal at the time, which is the interesting thing. A lot of polygamy laws get passed in the United States because of the Mormons.
Right.
At least.
When did that become a thing with the Mormons?
Polygamy?
Yeah.
Well, as far as I know the history, it became a thing when Joseph Smith got a little tired of Emma Smith and decided to chase a 14-year-old girl.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
And then when Joseph Smith gets caught, he suddenly has a revelation, and this is my favorite bit of scripture ever. It's Doctrine and Covenants section 132, for those who want to look it up, which is very long. But the relevant verse is the verse where God, speaking through Joseph Smith, of course, commands his wife to accept polygamy or be destroyed.
What? Wow. Wow.
And eventually all this historical evidence built up. It's like, even if I wanted to go back just for like the social aspect at this point, and I don't, because there are plenty of other things the church has done that are just downright terrible. It's like, I know too much. It's like, I know about things like the Kinderhook plates. Which...
Are those the golden ones or?
No.
Different ones?
The Kinderhook plates are basically someone decided to take some writings off a package of tea leaves from China and write them down on like some kind of tin and take them to Joseph Smith to see if he could translate him or translate them. Because one of the things he claims as one of his gifts is that he can translate anything without knowing the language.
Oh, fuck. Sure he can.
So he comes up with this like bizarre story about Joseph in Egypt, I think, or something like that. And eventually, the people let it out. It's like, hey, this is just like advertisement off a package of tea or something. I mean, I'm not a Mormon historian. I'm sure someone like D. Michael Quinn could tell you a lot more. Magic underwear is cool, though. We'll get to magic underwear stories later, I promise. And this is because also, I mean, this wasn't found out until much later. Joseph Smith bought what apparently turned out to be a copy of the Egyptian Book of Breathings.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned it into something called the Pearl of Great Price, which is still part of Mormon scripture. If you want to download like the Doctrine and Covenants Pearl of Great Price, it's like you can find it there. And that's where the thing like Kolob comes from. It's in that book. But Egyptology wasn't very advanced at the time. They had found the Rosetta Stone, but there weren't a lot of people who could translate ancient Egyptian in the US. So it turns out later in the 19th century, someone sends like the facsimiles in the Book of Abraham, essentially, to an Egyptologist expecting to find out, it's like, oh, Mormonism is true. And the Egyptologist says, these are just common Egyptian funerary texts that have nothing to do with Joseph Smith's translation. Which gets ignored, of course. But
so did he translate them and they were different from what they actually were supposed to be saying?
Yeah, I mean, there's like in the Book of Abraham is some weird story about Abraham, and if you read the translation of the text, it's like, grant that this soul may breathe in the underworld. Because it's a common Egyptian funerary spell.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. It does have religious significance, but it doesn't have anything to do with the Jewish patriarch.
Right.
+2 jockstrap of remove disease.
I don't know.
Okay.
Ollie Man's funny. I don't know what the hell that is.
And not only do I find out things about these history, but I guess this is about the time Proposition 8 is happening.
Mhm.
Does anyone need a refresher on Proposition 8? I'm sure everyone remembers what it was.
I have no idea what that is, but I'm Canadian, so.
Well, California had passed a law back in like the early 2000s. This is also the time when I got into an argument with a Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist that I didn't intend to get into. Wasn't trying to, but apparently, anyway, back to what I was doing. California passed a law allowing same-sex marriage. I think it was the second state to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people did not like this law, so they proposed a proposition that would amend the California Constitution not to allow same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Mormon Church teams up with the Catholic Church, oddly enough, even though the Mormon Church has bought the Catholic line for a long time about the Catholic Church being the great abomination. And in fact, you'll see it described such as in the early Book of Mormon. But they team up to stop same-sex marriage, and it's like, why are they getting involved in this? Not only that, there's pretty good evidence the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the official name, encouraged its members to vote against it from the pulpit, which they're not allowed to do. I don't think the Catholic Church did, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out I'm wrong about that. Because the Catholic Church, well, I don't want to say they're much better about not spreading laws, but there are certain laws they tend to ignore.
Right.
I think everyone knows what laws I'm thinking of. And if you ever saw George Carlin, just remember the line. It's like when Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me," that's not what he meant.
He didn't say that in the show that I've seen him twice live here in Vancouver. The last one I saw, he was going on about stuff. You bring your stuff with you, and then the one before that, he did a little bit about religion and stuff like that. But yeah, I only saw him twice. But I've seen lots of his shows on TV and stuff like that. But I don't remember that.
I think you can find it on YouTube, and I'm probably misquoting him because I've.
Oh, probably.
But that's the general gist of it. And we all remember him in Dogma as promoting the Buddy Christ.
Yeah. Which is hilarious.
And it's like, why are you getting involved in religion? I also want to take questions from the chat if they have any. So, and then the beginning of last year, it's like I did a brief podcast that didn't. I would love to continue it at some point. Oh, I missed messages in private chat. Let me see.
From Mikey.
Okay. Topics about Mormon history, like the Mountain Meadows Massacre. But one of the things that one of the last episodes we did, and it was great to have Godless Engineer on reading like a Mormon anti-masturbation pamphlet in a Southern preacher voice, which was not what I intended him to be there for, but it worked out pretty well despite the topic. Was that they found out the church had been hoarding $100 billion. Not doing anything with it, they just had an investment fund. And rather than just say, most likely they were using it to build up temples because the church loves building temples everywhere. And personally, I think most of the temples are ugly. Like the one went up in Indianapolis not long ago. It's not a very good looking building.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I really like is the one in Washington, D.C.
Which one's that?
The Washington, D.C. temple. I don't know. All I can remember it kind of looks like... Actually...
there's only one there?
Kind of looks like the Emerald City. Mormon temples aren't the same thing as churches.
Oh, okay. I got you.
A temple is like where if you pay your tithe and you're a member in good standing, You go to take out your endowments and get your magic underwear. And I know some people object to me calling it magic underwear.
Did you ever get any?
No, I never got the endowments because
Ah.
I was falling away at that point, but it took years to come to this conclusion. It's not like overnight. It's not like a sudden, like, come away from Jesus moment when it comes to things like this.
Right.
And I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead and ask questions.
Well, what was the first thing that sort of led you to start your trek away from the belief system?
And that would have to be its focus on genealogy and its veneration of the pioneers.
Oh, okay. But from that point, let's say from that point, to you actually thinking of yourself as an atheist, how long was there in there?
I was going to say, I'm not sure I still think of myself as an atheist, but I was going to say, arguing about atheism is not a topic I wish to get into. There are plenty of people who do that, and it's like, whether I am or not, it doesn't matter. It's like...
No. Okay. Instead of using that term, because I know it carries a lot of baggage, because seems that there's almost like there's a few different definitions of what it means. But for me, I don't believe. So I think it's all mythology. I think it's all bullshit. So
I'm non-religious.
Yes. Unbeliever, non-religious, secular, something like that. But how long was it till that moment when you were kind of like, okay, this is crap, and then you literally came out and called yourself a non-believer / atheist, whatever you want?
Well, that would be a period of 10 years, because it's just like, all right, you're thinking, oh, well, maybe it's still true, or you're trying to play those little games with yourself.
Right.
And so much of your identity is tied into it at that point, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's why it can be really, really hard to break free from a belief system like that, is because it literally is intertwined with who you are, because you grow up with it, right? So
you grow up with it, and it's like the Mormons have this weird thing every Sunday called Fast and Testimony Meeting.
Oh.
Where instead of having the normal 3 speakers that are pulled from the congregation each week, instead of having trained speakers, people get up and bear their testimonies.
Oh, interesting.
And it can be entertaining if you have a sick mindset, because you will go and hear all the women get up and say how much of a jerk their husband is, but they're still going to support him anyway.
Fuck.
A lot of crying.
That's the kind of shit that really, really, really bothers me about. Yeah, no, I'm just going to get mad if I start thinking about it. So let's just carry on.
Well, everything ends the same way with these words. It's like, I know the church is true. I know the Book of Mormon is true. I know whoever the prophet is. I don't know. I would love to go and just say, I know Lewis Black is a prophet of God sometimes, and see what they say. But I know Joseph Smith was a prophet of God, and Jesus Christ, amen. And it's like, I believe there's a word for that technique. I think it's called thought control.
Yes.
Where you repeat phrases like that over and over again.
Yeah, the part of the bite model, as they put it, right? For those that don't know what a bite model is, it's behavioral control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Yeah.
And one of the things I'm glad I never did, because I'm trans and as a young Mormon male, or what they perceive as a male, because you're never going to be anything else other than what you were born as a Mormon.
If I didn't know you, I'd never have thought you were a male in a million years.
It's open on YouTube and on the internet. Sure. Where I live, I don't tell people unless they need to know.
Right. And you shouldn't have to.
Because I figure it's like, if they spend enough time, they'll figure it out on their own. If they care. And I treat it like it's not a big deal, because it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be.
And I absolutely dreaded the idea of going on a mission. I also hated wearing ties. That was one of the big sticking points for me.
Oh, I can't stand ties either. Unfortunately, I have to put them on once in a while.
And it's like, provided you're 12 and you have a penis, which are apparently the requirements that God wants because you don't need anything more, you're allowed.
Do you still have the tip, or did God make you cut that off? Because he did that for a lot of different belief systems.
You're allowed to, or they give you the priesthood. Okay. So you get the power of God, whereas I guess the women get a nice certificate as they graduate from primary. But they expect you to pass out the sacrament, and you have to wear your Sunday best, wear a tie. And it's like, if you don't wear a tie, you're not allowed to pass the sacrament. And it's like, if you don't pass the sacrament, they assume something's wrong. It's like, I just hated wearing ties, so I never wore one.
Do you remember? I don't know if do you remember the zipper ties when you could get? They were leather, and you could unzip them and put them around your neck and just zip them up, and then you could just leave them loose, and then it was like you weren't even wearing a tie.
Yeah, I don't think that I'd consider it that. They might allow bow ties though, but
bow ties are cool. I don't mind the bow ties, but they feel like a bit of a collar. So,
but I never liked dressing up in the. I want to call it a monkey suit.
Yep, that's what I call it.
And then, the next level, it's like the deacon, you pass out the sacrament. The next level is teacher. That wasn't so bad, just because you didn't have to be out in front. You just cleaned up the sacrament and prepared it. And I stopped being what they call active before then, but the next level after that is priest, where you bless the sacrament. So the deacons can pass it out.
Was that the wine?
Mormons do not use wine.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say, when does the drinking start?
Oddly enough, the Mormons have this thing called the Words of Wisdom, which does not forbid alcohol consumption if you read the actual text.
Okay.
And if you know something about the history and know that mild beverages of barley are allowed, whereas hard liquor is discouraged.
FYI.
You'll find out that Joseph Smith owned a bar.
He owned a bar?
At the time that was written. Yes, he owned a bar in Nauvoo. He also owned all the brothels.
Attaboy.
But it wasn't supposed to be like a commandment. It was just someone asked, or basically what happened is Emma Smith and some of the early Mormon wives got tired of cleaning up after the tobacco chewing, cigar smoking brethren of the early church. And the word of wisdom came out just to discourage smoking and chewing tobacco at meetings.
Mm-hmm. I tried that stuff once. Never again.
Well, it was the 19th century, so.
Yeah, well. I think I'd rather chew on a fucking little sack full of that Bitrix stuff that I use in our antifreeze.
Probably. I don't know. I don't like cigar smoke, so continue with the questions.
Me? Oh, by the way, guys, if you guys do have a question for the Sinister Porpoise, you can pop it in the chat there, either at me or do a dip it straight up nasty yet. Or a super chat. It doesn't have to be a 50 cents or a buck is all, just to get a question through. That way I see it, because I'm not actually on YouTube, so it shows up with the color and then I'll notice it. So if you guys do have any questions, just let us know.
All right. There is something I wanted to explain about the garments.
Okay.
And do you know what a faith-promoting rumor is?
Nope.
I'm thinking all religions have them, essentially. A faith-promoting rumor is a story that gets passed around, designed to bolster your belief in something. Like saying a faith-promoting rumor is like, the Smithsonian uses the Book of Mormon as a guide to ancient American archaeology.
Yeah.
Which has happened so often, the Smithsonian has put out a statement saying, No, we do not. We see the Book of Mormon as important to 19th century American religions and their formation. Which, that statement is true. They stop short of saying it's like there is absolutely nothing that indicates the Book of Mormon represents anything that happened in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
But
have you seen the play?
The Book of Mormon has nothing to do with the Book of Mormon.
I know, but it's funny.
It's
I haven't
yes.
seen it live, but I've seen on people that have recorded it or whatever, and I've seen some of it on YouTube. It's pretty funny.
But a lot of these faith-promoting rumors surround the garments themselves, basically the magic underwear that everyone's tickering about in chat, because they're calling it magic underwear and not the preferred Mormon term, the temple garments.
The temple garments? Yeah, well, probably sounds a little bit more legit than magic underwear.
I mean, people just think it's silly, so they're going to call it magic underwear.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not, because there are very few religions that have sacred undergarments. But there are stories surrounding these garments, and a lot of them take the form of, this person got into a horrible accident, and a fire started, and everything that the garments didn't surround was burned, which supposedly illustrates their protective power. At some point, I had to be a smartass and point out, you realize in all these stories, the person's still dead, right?
That's bizarre.
I'm sure all religions have their own form of their own faith-promoting rumors.
Oh, of course. Of course they do.
I mean, if you ever watch Kent Hovind, I'm pretty sure he's flat out lying, but...
Oh, of course he is. He has to. In order to keep up what he believes, he has to lie.
Yeah, well, also, the story about the underwear not being burned breaks the laws of chemistries and physics.
Mm-hmm. Which I know a little something about.
And if I got that wrong, I know there's someone who has a bachelor's in physics and a master's in computer science who's about to correct me in the chat.
Well, I'm the chemist, but not the computer science.
And I actually would like to go doing more regarding Mormonism on YouTube, but I kind of got sidetracked for a while. And it's like, what really works for me is just kind of like snarkily covering people. So, at least here. Is there a student discount for, what was that?
I missed it. Is there a student discount?
For I have no idea.
Olympazon? What the hell is that?
Olympsia.
Olympazon? Is that like Amazon, but on Mount Olympus?
I don't know. Faith-promoting Randolf Richardson is a certified carpenter. Actually, Randolf Richardson is a great guy. I have interviewed him on my channel.
Yes, that's how we found each other, actually. It was through him.
And we only know each other because we have no... We both had a problem with a certain individual.
No, he's not a certified carpenter. I can attest to that because I've helped him building that thing.
Both of my degrees are computer science. Technically, my degree would be computer science related. It's only an associate's. Working on getting another degree. Hopefully I can get that one.
Oh, okay.
All I'm seeing is a subsidy of GorillaCom. Does that work as a hair care product? No, that's Gorilla Glue. Wow.
No, the Quiet Gorilla is a friend of mine, also from this neck of the woods, and he sent me something, and it was packaged, and on the box it said Gorillazon instead of Amazon. He even had it printed out. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I do believe there was another thing that happened recently with the Mormon church that was interesting about trans rights and gay rights, where they had what was called the November Proclamation, done by the former prophet, which caused a lot of people just like to resign. And then when the new prophet took over, he's like, we're getting rid of this November Proclamation. It's like, this is no longer policy. It's almost as if it was hurting the church's bottom line. And that's that's another reason that I wouldn't go back now, because you find out it's like most organizations, the church really loves money. And it's not like the Catholic Church, where they actually do tell you where a lot of things go. And a lot of it does, in fact, go to charity if you donate to the Catholic Church. You may not agree with those charities, but like most of the money they get into their churches actually goes out back to the communities. Not all of it, but most of it. Where in the US, they're not forced, the Mormon church isn't forced to reveal where its money goes. So if you give money to a church, they'll tell you about all these great things they're doing. And the Mormon church actually does have a good, internal welfare program. Even though its help is not free, you'll probably end up doing something to the church to get its help. Mm-hmm. But you have no idea what percentage of the budget is. It's like, I think in Utah, if you go unemployed, you can go work for a cannery for a time. They do make you pay tithes on it, though. Mm. But at least it's an option if you're unemployed. You just go work at this cannery and have an income until you can find something else.
Right. Where you don't have to pay tithes.
Where you don't have... Well, the church wants you to pay tithes as long as you're a member. And if you don't pay enough tithes, you can lose what's called your temple recommend.
What a shame.
Well, personally, for what I remember about the coolest thing about the temple trips that they arranged every so often was that if you went, you got to spend time elsewhere in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Like the Smithsonian, the Air and Space Museum, which I personally love, the National Mall, Lincoln Monument, the Memorial. I think there's a Holocaust museum down there. Mm-hmm. And you get to look at this building that looks a lot like you're heading into Oz. Or not Oz. The Emerald City, when you go to the temple, which has led some local smartass to paint Surrender Dorothy on a nearby overpass for the past several years. I think it would be better if someone just started to buy a field and plant poppies outside of it. And maybe just have a yellow brick road leading up to it. Joker gloves? These aren't Joker gloves.
Joker gloves?
These are opera gloves. If you've seen my...
You gonna start singing opera?
Well, they're called opera gloves, but...
No, I know. I'm just teasing you.
Actually, this is just a stylistic thing. Like the IRS doesn't ordinarily charge income tax and unemployment bennies. Yeah, well, unless you tell them to.
Right.
You will end up paying tax on unemployment if you don't, which is the weird bit. All right. You want the explanation for the Joker gloves, as you call them. Well, at some point, I just decided, a sense of style, to do flapper gear, which explains the hat and the string of pearls. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the flapper dresses I have don't quite fit, and you can't really see them anyway. And the cigarette holder, by the way.
That's a big one.
I don't know. It was just a stylistic choice. And I have I have a headband, another hat, and 3 different pairs of gloves. So. Only one string of pearls, though. I might get an actual flapper dress that fits, but that's a little hard to find.
Yeah, they are really hard to find. A good site to try would be Etsy, because people will actually tailor make shit for you. That's how I got my Mandalorian mask.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, this stuff right here. It's handmade. It fits a little snug, but it still fits.
It's like Riddler is more of a penguin thing. Well, I happen to feel that to complete this look, I should have a martini glass.
Yes, you should. I'm kind of low budget. I got a beer thing, so
But ex-Mormon, I don't really drink, so
no time like the present to start.
well, I have drank Jägermeister on my streams at one point.
I'm sorry.
I like black licorice, but it's like the game was to take a drink every time someone said some word, and it's like you said it way too many times. So I started cheating, and then I said, "It's like, if I have to do this, I'm not going to be able."
So my cousin's in the Facebook chat because I'm marrying this on Facebook too, and he's like, "Put on the mask." And Frankie, if you're still watching, let's talk because I should have you on my show. Frankie calls himself an agnostic Catholic, so sounds like a fence sitter to me.
Oh yes, I no longer have her Glenlivet for a prop. I never used her Glenlivet. Well, I used it once for a prop. Actually,
awesome.
The deal with the Glenlivet was I said if someone donated $1,000 to my live chat,
okay, hang on,
I would open her Glenlivet, take a drink, give her $500, and donate $500 to the Trevor Project.
Hang on 1 second here. I'm going to put the mask on just to make my cousin happy because he's yelling at me now on Facebook. So.
Well, he's doing that. I'm going to explain. That's a Fallout 76 poster.
Oh,
it was actually bought for me by someone I was kind of dating at the time. It wasn't put up on the wall for a long time, but now it's kind of bent. But I have to think, given the Fallout universe and its general aesthetic, it actually looks better with a little bit of dings and bends, so it doesn't look like brand new. Putting on the mask. This is the way.
This is the way. Except with the headphones on, you sound like you're in a tunnel.
I can see that. It's like, and having these headphones on underneath this hat is always kind of a little weird, but it just fits. These headphones just work better than having like earbuds.
Sorry, what was that? I missed that.
These headphones, and well, I was going to say having headphones on underneath these hats to look weird. That, and I don't want to do the trans thing of having cat ears. Every trans streamer does that.
That's true. That's very true.
It's like
I think they're cool though. Like I think they're really cool, especially the headphones that have the little cat ears on them. I think they're neat.
But I just have to wonder why. Is there some law that says you have to have cat ears?
I don't know.
No man living knows the color of Neil's roots.
Oh, I can show you if you want. They're pretty much gray because that's where I'm at now. Oh, hashtag coins. Got to have a drink.
But if you ever want to explore Mormon theology in a fun way, watch Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah. Battlestar Galactica is one of my favorite. You mean the original one from 75, right? From back in the day.
Well, they both have Mormon elements, but yeah, there's more Mormon theology in the original one. And I just had a hard time with like the new Starbuck at first. So
some of us just want to wear cat ears to wear cat ears.
If you want to wear cat ears, that's fine. I'm just wondering, what law says every trans streamer has to have cat ears?
I think it's not just because they're trans. It's a big thing. It's the Nico look, right? It's very anime sort of thing. So 75 it aired. 78 was Buck Rogers, I believe.
Wasn't Buck Rogers 1980?
Oh, maybe. Hang on. I just looked this up the other day.
They're all old, fun Glenn A. Larson TV shows.
Yeah, most of them back then were.
Like, even Knight Rider is one of those. I do remember B.J. McKay and My Best Friend Bear, but I don't think people want to remember
McKay and My Best Friend Bear. I remember that show. Okay.
So Kolob is essentially not Kolob. Yeah, Kolob, because it's Kobol in Battlestar Galactica, is the planet God lives on, or a star nearby lives on.
78 was the show. Okay. So the show was 78, but I think did the movie come out in 75? Maybe it's the movie I'm thinking of.
And they actually do have a good episode from the original of it, where they come across this old prison planet.
Oh no, 78 as well. Where the hell did I get 75 from? Sorry, carry on.
Where they find out the prisoners are just descendants of the original prisoners, and the guards of the prisoners, descendants of the guards, and the prisoners are still being punished for what their ancestors did. And it's just designed to show you the absurdity of original sin. Because eventually at one point Starbuck, the original Starbuck, finds out the cell doors aren't even locked.
Yeah, but you see, the qualms I have with comparing Battlestar Galactica with Mormonism is they drank, smoked, and gambled.
All of which were allowed in the original forms of Mormonism.
Oh, okay. And my friend Frankie wants to know what kind of beer I'm drinking. These days, it's either been Granville Island Winter Ale, which I really like, or just a standby that I usually have is Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale. So there you go. From Nova Scotia.
Personally, I remember growing up as a Mormon. Yeah, you're told not to do that thing, but one thing I wasn't allowed to do was drink caffeine in any form, like even soda. At least my parents weren't the type. It's like, don't play with playing cards.
Oh, good Lord. Canadian Ollyman reminded me about Galactica 1980 with the flying motorcycles.
I'm sorry, there's only one episode of Galactica 1980 that exists, and that's the Return of Starbuck.
Oh, yeah, when he makes That's right. If
you're trying to tell me there are other episodes of Galactica 1980, I just don't believe you. Just like I don't believe that Star Trek V exists.
Star Trek V?
Yeah. There's like this weird gap between Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6.
Yes. Weird gap. Yeah, we don't talk about the odd ones. Because the third one wasn't that good either.
The first one was okay. Sixth was pretty good. Oh,
Sixth was
not an odd one. Generations wasn't great.
Yeah, Generations was all right. It was a good introduction to next gen movies. The ones that followed were much better. But my favorites were always Wrath of Khan, of course, is number 2, and number 4 when they go back to Earth. Because there's nothing like seeing Chekhov walking around looking for Alameda and the nuclear weapons. Nuclear vessels. That's what it was. Nuclear
vessels.
Where do you keep your nuclear vessels? I've tried to watch Lucifer series, Frankie. I didn't dig it.
Well, Star Trek V exists in the world where Highlander 2 exists. And the Phantom Menace.
The alternate reality, right? I don't know. I think we're getting close to the hour. So yeah. I have a couple more questions for you, but I do want to bring my producer Mikey in for the final few minutes here.
Sure.
So come on in here, Mikey, because I'm sure Mikey might have something to.
Now this is pod racing. I was like, what's the one thing I can say to make Sinister Porpoise just hate me immediately? Just quote Phantom Menace off rip.
Oh, I just hated paying. I was just so mad when the Phantom Menace came out when I went to see it in the theaters. Like, I almost demanded to get my money back, and then I thought, it's not the theater's fault. George Lucas produced this.
That's right. I mean, of course, I'll always be the first 3 that ever were released in '77. See, I got that one right, people.
You did it, Neil.
I have no idea where the 75 thing came from. I have no idea.
Yeah, I googled. I was like 79 to 81. Don't know where he's getting. Don't know where he's getting.
Was the original movie, which I actually saw at a drive-in. But anyway, what was I going to say?
Star Wars original 3.
Yeah, which are always going to be my favorite. Well, the third one's the least fit. Like Return of the Jedi was because it had the
Rogue One is better.
Yeah, but the first and second, I think Empire is probably my favorite of the 3. But until the end, where you got to wait. Like, great, now we got to wait 2 years, and fucking Solo's going to defrost by then. But anyway, that was a quote out of Mad Magazine at the time, just so you know. But yeah, for the newer ones are, there's moments that I enjoyed, but for the most part, they just seem so off.
I just like them as movies because I understand that no one's going to love the 70s ones more than me in my brain. And no one's going to like certain parts of the prequels more than in my brain. So I was like, someone's loving this. I'm not loving this. I like it, but I'm not in love with it.
Well, I liked them, but they just didn't have that. Oh, I did see the first one, whatever the fucking episode 7?
7, yeah.
When it came out, it felt like the original to me. Like it felt like the number of episode 4, A New Hope. It kind of felt that way.
It was a great way to end a bad year for me.
Mm-hmm.
But The Force Awakens, I was going to say, The Force is just a giant Deus Ex Machina throughout the whole thing.
True. But this show,
I was about to say, they totally redeemed themselves.
Disney totally redeemed themselves with this show.
And then you turn around and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Hey, Solo: A Star Wars Story was the best Borderlands movie ever.
All I know is tomorrow on Disney Plus, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
That tomorrow? I gotta watch the Snyder Cut tonight.
Is it going to be Agatha all along?
Is that the Justice League Snyder Cut?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like 2 extra hours added on or some shit.
Yes, I am buckling. I got an edible ready.
Do I really want to waste that much fucking time though? But apparently it's actually not bad. They people are, but from what I've been seeing, they've been going, how come they cut all this out?
Right. Because they didn't want to make 2 movies and,
I think we need to watch Soul on Disney Plus since they put that up.
Soul is really good.
Soul's cute. It's a good show. I really, really liked it.
I think on a level of allergy,
blues though, so
on the level of allergies, which will trigger, watering of the eyes, I'd say that it was like a dandelion kind of fresh cut grass. It wasn't full on hay fever like fucking Moana or Coco. Coco was straight up hay fever.
Coco was fuck.
That
was amazing.
Butchered me.
And the new one, Raya and the Last Dragon, is fucking amazing too. Yeah.
Yeah, Disney, I'm not spending $30 to watch a single movie on Disney Plus.
Oh, just do it. It's great. It's great.
Just you wait a couple of months it comes out and you can just watch it at regular.
If the theaters were to open, I would only have to spend $5 to go to a matinee.
There you go. Yeah, I know. I don't know why they're doing that.
Me and the missus kind of treated it like a date night, so we just kind of ordered in food, and it's like, well, we can't go out to the theater and go out and get dinner or whatever, so this is fine.
Because they're expecting an entire family to sit down and watch it.
Yeah. Can you still do the watch party thing?
I think you can.
I'd say let's set up. Oh, they got rid of it?
I don't think you can.
Great. Well, as someone
Amazon
who knows about hacker culture, do they allow you through its own software to do the watch party thing? But for me, the question is, how can you do the watch party thing if they don't? And you can do it through Discord if you really want to.
That's
all right.
smart.
So before we close this out and jump into an after party, which I'm hoping you're going to join us for the after party.
Sure, why not?
Nothing better to do, right?
So enthusiastic.
I can tell you the argument I got into with Steve Benson.
That'd be cool. What? How did your family take it after you decided you were no longer going to be a part of it?
Well, the weird thing is, if you go back far enough in the family history, you find out the family kind of has a history of heretics.
Oh, okay. So you're just the newest of a long line of them.
Yeah, because it's like about the only thing I have in common with Paula G is that we're both descended from Swiss Mennonites. Except he's Canadian and I'm Pennsylvania Dutch. So I have ancestors mentioned in the Martyr's Mere. Or an ancestor. Or supposedly it's an ancestor since everyone with my last name likes to claim this one person with the same last name as one of their ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing that bolstered this is I happen to know my father's family actually came over from Zurich, where the story in the Martyr's Mere takes place. Mm-hmm. not too long after this person was beheaded, I think was beheaded, by the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they love doing shit like that.
Why
Well,
off so many heads?
The Anabaptists were standing up to them. But
Well, you sever the head, and there's no coming back. Plus, you get all their power, right? So,
yeah, I think that's how it works.
They were trying to prevent a zombie outbreak.
That's right. No, you'll still get zombies. You actually have to puncture the brain. You can't just cut off the head. The head will just sit there going.
Just start crawling around with its tongue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like in The Thing, it'll just sprout legs and start going everywhere.
Ugh.
I don't know, but I'll trade you 3 Presbyterians for 5 Huguenots. And actually, there are Huguenots on my father's side. Kind of embarrassing to have the French people there, but no, it's not that embarrassing.
Hey, whoa! I'm part French.
The Huguenots were German-speaking French Protestants.
German-speaking French Protestants. What the hell were y'all up to over in Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania.
I've heard it called that.
They got all the new white people over there. We got some French, German-speaking Protestants. I know so little about other people's religions because I just went to a Baptist church and then went to a non-denominational church, and then I grew up and I left the house and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this if I don't have to.
Well, as far as I know, Huguenot was an actual religion. It's just people who lived on like near the French-German border. So
okay.
I'm actually probably a quarter French, give or take. And French Canadian, not the good French like from France. Although I guess you go far enough back, they originally came from there. But yeah, anyway. Well, Porpoise, thank you for joining me and sharing all this stuff with us.
And if you want to check out my channel, it's the Sinister Porpoise.
Links are all below, guys.
Or you can check out my indie game, Petty Theft Moped.
No, that's a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing.
It doesn't need to exist, but it does.
That's awesome.
Inspired by the true story of my moped getting stolen.
Oh, your moped got stolen. Oh, did you ever like?
It happens quite a lot in this town.
Oh, okay. Is there any recognizable things on it? Like if it just happens to show up in my neck of the woods?
I don't think it's going to. I think it was melted down for scrap metal, essentially.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say that's quite a long way to go for a moped.
That'd be the second Dumb and Dumber reference I'd make tonight.
All right. So, anyways, I want to thank you again for joining me today, and thanks, Mikey, for showing up and being the producer, the awesome producer that you are. And also thanks to everyone out there in the chat for hanging out with us. We are going to do an after party. There is a link below for the after party. Also, we'll give you a link for the after party. It'll be different than the one they get. Also, thanks to my amazing patrons. You guys are my heart and soul. You guys are what keep the show going and keep inspiring me to make more. And don't forget that Randolph and I are very soon. He's still working on building the studio. We're going to be doing a call-in show called True North Talk.
Sorry.
Slacking. What was I just saying about you being an amazing producer too?
I was grabbing the link for the next show, and I was cool. I got a second. Let me just grab that. And then my mouse stopped working, and I was fucked. And here we are.
Tune into the episodes where they're building like what is it? I don't know what you're building. But it's
wall.
like an atheist this old house.
Atheist this old house. And then there's the one with the Benny Hill music where you sped up the film. Thanks, Peter, for doing that. But we're going to be doing our own show called True North Talk where people can call in. We'll talk about religion, politics, that kind of thing. So I think we're going to leave politics off the table for this. I think it's just what you believe, why you believe it, and even if you're an atheist, you can call in and talk about how you became one, that kind of thing. All kinds of things we'll be talking about. Anyway, so head over to True North Talk channel and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out when we do our launch. And you can also find the link through www.truenorthtalk.ca as well. which will also link you to the Canadian Atheists, which I'm the community advocate for, and Randolf Richardson is the president of. Anyway, yes, coming to watch me and some other great hosts on the relaunched Nonprofits show, one of the ACA shows that airs between Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience at 3 p.m. Central Time. So go ahead over there and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that too. They just did a recording yesterday. I wasn't involved in that one. I was the one before that, which I think aired last Sunday. And the last Saturday of every month at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, March, Andy, Seamus, and myself on Atheists Drinking Out Loud, where we have a few brewskis and we find some funny articles and we make fun of them and things like that. And Andy has a show called Laughing in Disbelief, which I think I put in the little thing there, which is his channel. So head over there and subscribe. And Seamus is on the Free Thought Prophets, which you guys, I'm sure, are aware of by now. All right. Everyone, thank you. I hope you guys had a good time. We're going to be doing the after party, probably be up going in about 15, 20 minutes or so. I'm going to take a quick break. And the link below if you want to head over there and hang out and chat with everyone that's waiting. And we will see you soon. And until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of the interviews, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.